Hello, everyone, and welcome to what's going to be my hopefully first mock of the year on the real life NFL draft. Currently, we are just getting into the combine numbers, so I do have some estimate numbers on some of these players, but some players still haven't got much testing done, so I'm going to try to keep these numbers as much out of this ranking as possible. Now, before we actually get into the players, I do need to help kind of understand what I'm going to do as a grading scale for what these picks are going to be, and this is what I think is going to happen. I usually grade in terms of groupings. I don't like to do like pluses or minuses for things. I'd rather just keep it within a bracket. So yes, there's definitely A's that are stronger than other A's, but I just for simplicity's sake, I'd like to keep it just absolutely the same. So with our grading scale, an A basically is just an utterly fantastic pick. It helps the team schematically, financially. It's a really good talent-wise pick. It's really great for a positional need. It helps them now and in the future. Like it is basically an all-around great pick. That doesn't mean the player isn't, how do I say, a bulletproof pick. Like absolutely that player can still bust. But when you're looking at this from an analytical perspective, from where you are as a scout, this player should fit almost every category of what that team is selecting. Now, a B is just a very good selection. They might not fit all the categories of an A, or they might fit the categories with an asterisk. What that asterisk usually is usually they have either it's like an extensive bill of health, they have, there's some personality or mental problems that has shown up prior or has been very consistent throughout this player's career. Something like that, that it's like, they could fit all the categories, but it's do they want to, or will their body allow them to, so to speak. So that's what the asterisk means. And so a B is still a very good selection, but usually there's something that holds it back from being an A, at least in my opinion. C, decent pick. There's a number of reasons why it could succeed or why it could fail. It really just depends, but usually some combination of talent, value, and need is there. D, this is just a very poor selection. Like usually this is where we consider something a reach from consensus boards. It's really hard to justify this pick over possibly other players or from going in a different direction. So this is for those reaches. And then we have the F. It is very hard on my scale to get an F. I have to basically fail to be able to justify what that pick was. I think the only F I can really think. I think there's two Fs I had last draft. The first F was Alex Leatherwood in the first. I could not justify that for the Raiders in any way, shape, or form. And the other F was Ian Book from the Saints in the fourth. I also could not justify that pick in the fourth round as high as that was for that player. I couldn't do it. So it is very hard to get an F. We have over 200 picks that happened during the draft. For me to be unable to justify it means I think there is a very serious flaw in what has happened from an organizational standpoint and when they've selected this player. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, we can actually officially start. Let's get it on it. So first overall pick, I'm having Evan Neal. I know Evan Neal for a lot of people in consensus has been slipping. I think it's just player fatigue. He's still an insane player. He pass pros very well on both sides of the tackle position, like right and left is not a problem. His floor of ability seems to be very solid already. Like he's not giving up much for his very high comp. He's not being schemed up in a way to take away some of his flaws. He's honestly having to win that often, which is really nice. And for him to then combine that with this really freakish frame. I know he came in a little lighter. He cut down on his weight. So I don't think he's 360 anymore. I think he's closer to 330, 340. It's still a crazy athlete though. And this just makes sense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You really need to protect Lawrence. Like, please don't Andrew Luck him. I am worried about that with a couple quarterbacks that have been selected over the last couple years that they are going to get ruined before they could actually get this team moving forward. So I think it's really important that Doug Peterson, when taking over this team, he protects that number one pick from last year very quickly, very early. And I think Evan Neal is a really good selection to do that. Lions. This is basically for me the most no-brainer pick early on. The Lions basically just get to say thank you and just move on. They love to run these multiple fronts where, and when I mean multiple, I mean they can kind of flip into a 4-3-3-4, lots of hybrid looks where the quarterback kind of has to guess a little bit more. Hutchinson fits that to a key. He's got the size, the power, like he fits it all over the place, and edge is a need for them. They've already got the Akarakwo brothers that do this rotational role where Romeo takes the earlier downs. He's the more powerful, probably better pass rusher, whereas Julian's the more speed guy. And then you have Aiden Hutchinson play on the other side of them. So you get to have the hometown guy who is a great schematic fit, who would literally be a fan favorite for the from Motor City like since day one. He'll fit that perfectly. Now this is a little bit of a harder pick for the Houston Texans. I really like Kayvon Thibodeaux. I know some people are questioning him. He does have some questions of ability. Like he is a little more raw compared to a lot of other, top five edge rushers that we've seen go off in years past. You could see the Texans consider someone like Cross or someone a lot more higher floor here. But if I'm the Texans, I'd rather gamble with a player like Thibodeaux when I am rebuilding as much as I am than try to keep going for high floor players. I at some point need to get players that exceed the norm that actually can basically make teams have to adjust to them. And Thibodeaux is that player that if he reaches his ceiling, teams will have to adjust to him. You're going to have to slide your protection. You're going to have to double team. I would much rather as a team go for that. And if they can potentially tap into Thibodeaux's high-end athleticism and ability here, this is a slam dunk pick. It's just that if is the only reason this is not an A. That's that asterisk I was talking about. That is the only reason that's not an A. New York Jets. I don't personally have Kyle Hamilton this high, and I know that is probably my first really controversial grade and thing to say here. I do not have Kyle Hamilton as a top five like most people have had throughout the year. I do see some flaws in his game when it comes to how he moves within coverage. I think there is some work to be done. Now, with that being said, for him to have actually demonstrated decent play with those measurables, that is very intriguing for most teams, and I really do see a team probably reaching on him in the first top 10 picks. And I think you could justify it. I think a team like the Jets here, who are probably going to be in desperate need of safety, May's probably gone. That whole relationship is sour. Davis had a bit of a slow start to the year. I think Sela, I mean, this time he gets to pick a really nice player like Kyle Hamilton, and he gets to really work and scheme him up in this cover three defense. I think it could be intriguing. I think you could see a lot of really nice thing with Hamilton really early. However, I do think with what errors I have found in his coverage with how he moves and how he identifies things, I think you could see him struggle a little early. So don't write him off too much of a bust yet if you do see this pick happen. But just know I am okay with it. That's why it's still getting a B. I think it checks off a bunch of boxes. Just not quite an A for me. New York Giants, this just falls so nicely. Charles Cross. Get a pair you get to pair him up with what's the tackle buddy's name? Andrew Thomas. You get to pair Andrew Thomas with Charles Cross, and you've got potentially an elite tackle duo. Cross has shown really nice ability in the pass game immediately. The run game still needs a little bit of work, but for how much Dable will sometimes schematically just have multiple like games in a row where that's like all they're doing, they run the ball like maybe 7 times a game and then they're just air raid like we saw it with him at Buffalo with Josh Allen. This is a great fit for them, and especially with offensive lines of need, they've come out personally before this draft process even started saying we are going to fix the offensive line. That is our number one goal. Well, this has worked out incredibly well for them. They get Charles Cross. So I'm gonna have a trade here. Panthers gonna go get Deshaun Watson with a kick of a fourth in. So the Texans get to come back up to the top 10. They get pick 6 here, they get a first for the next 2 years, and they get a second for the next 2 years. A good haul, but probably not as much as they potentially could have gotten. I mean, we've heard what the offer was for Russell Wilson, and that offer was insane. You can only imagine what a much younger player in Watson, if all these legal issues were fixed, would have gotten. So it's a good trade for the Panthers. They finally get their quarterback of the future. They can not worry about it. And then the Texans get to come back into the 10 here. And with coming back into the 10, we're going to go with a player that has a high ceiling again. We're going to go right for Derek Stingley. Now, I think you could very reasonably argue that this could be a different cornerback, and I would not be opposed to it. I just think with how much good talent we've seen out of Stingley very consistently against top talent with the high end traits you look for, they're getting a bit of a higher floor here than they are probably with Thibodeaux. And if he does like just check out through health, there's really no issue here. Like this is a slam dunk pick. This helps fix that secondary. Like we as the Texans here are just trying to fix all of these issues at once. And I could see Houston doing this on draft day. Giants get to come back up, and they get to pick up Hakeem Ekwonu. We are really fixing the offensive line here, and I would not be surprised if Dable and that front office really do let that happen. Now, Ekwonu, I don't have a tackle on my board. I actually question whether he has the measurables needed to play tackle. We'll see as the combine comes out. I don't know if he actually can. However, he's a top interior lineman on my board, and that's what I had him at even as going into this season. And I think he could fit into that interior role really well here. He's an absolute mauler. He loves to get physical in the run game. You know, he's not much of a liability in pass protection as someone might think for kind of the way he plays. He's got a bit of a heavy foot every now and then, but it's not that bad actually. It's not as bad as you'd think for a guy who's 6'4", 320. Atlanta Falcons. All right. This is another extremely great fit. Atlanta Falcons get George Karlaftis. I'm a little lower on Karlaftis as well. I know some people have him as top 5. I have him as a solid first round grade. Karlaftis is a great scheme fit. Why? Well, the Atlanta Falcons have really embodied this role that you see a lot, like the Ravens use, where I mean even Green Bay to a degree is kind of uses, where they get these really just big body edge guys who can kind of kick inside, and they just let them dominate in these 3-4 schemes. And George absolutely fits that mold. There's only a certain amount of people who actually fit that mold, and George fits it to a T. You compare George's scheme fit now with the talent he has actually shown at Purdue as that being this really big, powerful edge rusher. Like this is a slam dunk pick, and not to mention that this really helps the Falcons actually fix this cap issue they have, where they have so much money they have sunk into their quarterback position and in other spots in the field. This really helps get them cheaper at a position that usually costs a premium. Denver's up next. I think this is where we see the first quarterback come off the board. Most of these quarterback grades are so tight. It like literally, if you said this was any like 2 or 3 other quarterbacks, I could maybe see it, honestly. The reason I'm picking Carson Strong here is if his injury checks out, if his body actually accepts the surgery that has happened to him, he had technically the best tape out of the quarterbacks I've watched this year. But because of that injury, that second half of the year of tape is really poor. So it's a bit of a gamble. There's a lot of things that could make this succeed. You know, with his big arm, he has shown some decent processing. But then you got things that make it fall. You know, if his body really does not keep up with that surgery, or it becomes an issue later down the line, he doesn't get up to speed quick enough, right? I am not as big on Carson Strong as, I mean, there's a number of quarterbacks in years past I would have absolutely rather taken over him at this spot. However, he fits the exact mold that Elway, even though Elway is not the GM anymore, Patton is. He fits the kind of mold that they were looking for when they looked at Drew Lock, right? Mostly a guy that sits in the pocket, is supposed to kind of read the defense, you know, take what the defense is giving him, and then occasionally use that really powerful arm to just drive the ball downfield to these really talented playmakers, which Denver has a plethora of. It is so many playmakers. So if they really can't get a veteran presence here, I think Carson Strong might be the first quarterback off the board right here at pick 9. New York Jets really have nothing else to say here. Olave showed more speed than I thought he had. He ran the 4.3s. I think it was a 4.39 is what his official time is. He has really great separation in his routes. He's been a threat after the catch as well. And he's done all this for multiple years at Ohio State. He could have came out last year, and I think I still had a first round grade on him coming into the draft last year. So for him to be my first receiver off the board here, even though I don't think he's technically my wide receiver one, I would not be surprised. And I think Saleh could really use a player like him to complement Corey Davis, who's that much more bigger body number one role. Then you got Elijah Moore, who can kind of go slot outside. And you can flip them all around. Olave is really just the last complement piece here, and I think there's really no issues with the Jets picking him. Commanders, I think, is where we see another quarterback go off the board. They're desperately needing a quarterback. The veteran market for acquiring a quarterback is non-existent. Basically, if you're not acquiring Jimmy Garoppolo, you're not acquiring anyone. Like, maybe you get Jameis Winston if the Saints can't retain him at all, but that's about it. That's really all you have. So now you have to look to the draft then. All right, well, there's a very high ceiling quarterback that if you can correct the issues that are there, this will work out lovely. That's a big if though. You have to get him off being basically a one read quarterback where he is coming off that first read not only faster but much more comfortably. And you have to get him more comfortable in the pocket where it's like, okay, not all the time can you just take off and really just start running. Like you will sometimes have to take off and keep your eyes down the field and then throw the ball. There's been times where Willis has really held onto the ball way too long. Just way too long. So it's a project. This is absolutely a project. This is RG3 light with a much stronger arm. It's going to take the Commanders a lot to get him ready. However, you do have Heineke. You could pick up a veteran option as well. If if you pick up, say like an Andy Dalton or something like that, right? That might be available to you. It's not going to solve your issues all at once. It really isn't. But if you give him the time needed, you might get something exceptional here. You might. And I think that's worth the gamble here for the Commanders. They already have a team that's so set up to go and they've got money. There's really no issue for them doing this. They can take the risk here. All right. Minnesota Vikings. Cornerback, please. Corner has been an issue here for way too long. Way too long. Getting a player like Ahmad Gardner is even if it's about where I have Gardner ranked wise, that is a steal. They desperately need help on the back end. Gardner has shown really high coverage rates. Like if you look at his like PFF coverage grade, it is insanely high, which is great. Combine that with his really nice athletics and the length he has at 6'2" as well. He moves well at 6'2". I compared him a lot to almost Murphy Bunting in the way he can just flip hits and just hit gazelle stride going downfield. It is like it's exactly what we want as a corner. And then sometimes you might question like, okay, well, how do they do at certain locations? Well, the Vikings don't play outside anymore. However, if you do, Gardner's really good when it comes to these cold weather. He's played in Cincinnati for the last few years of his career. He is used to playing in cold. You go into Lambeau, he'll be just fine. I have no doubt he'll be fine playing against the Packers twice a year. So this is an all-around slam dunk pick for the Vikings. This is about as A as you can get. There's no issues. Cleveland Browns. Here's my wide receiver one, Garrett Wilson. Really the only thing that's really the wide receiver one compared to Olave is I like his ability a little bit more deep, and I do like that he's a bit younger. But we're talking like splitting hairs here as to why he's my number one over Olave. I think he ran a 4.38. I think is what his official time was, or like a 4.4. Like it's basically what I expected of him. And with wide receiver becoming such a need here so quickly for the Cleveland Browns, we really need to have that spot filled in, and I fully expect they'll address it in the draft. They've got other needs they can spend money on to correct in free agency. This is a really expensive one to fix, and I think getting younger here is important. And Garrett Wilson checks all the boxes for what they're looking for as a wide receiver this draft. He's one of the best possible fits for a team. So Baltimore Ravens, there is a couple scouts around the league saying this has to be safety or corner, right? The corners are getting a little older. They could fill out the room a little more. You could do better than Elliott at free safety. Chuck Clark's all right. I'm not going to do that because I think we are drastically overlooking the fact that they've had to be doing a lot of plug and play at people who could play center for them over the last year. We've had Bozeman and there was Macari that had to kick in there for a while, and they've played okay because the scheme allows them to attack, right? Which helps linemen a lot because they don't have to worry about backpedaling at all. I just want that to be solved here if I'm the Ravens. And Tyler Linderbaum is a fantastic center. He shows extreme awareness. He looks for work, very heads up play. And if you got Lamar scrambling, right, or needing to buy time, Linderbaum's a great complement for that because he's not a bad athlete too. And with that heads up play, he can get in front and make sure Lamar has a blocker. So if I'm the Ravens here, and I think they might do this on draft day, let's just fix that center position right now and not have to worry about it. Not to mention it helps this team get cheaper with that Lamar contract looming if they do pay for him. Eagles. This is a bit of a controversial one, and not one that maybe I myself would overly do, but I see the Eagles doing it. They're not ever going to live down not picking Jefferson and Metcalf when they had 2 years in a row to pick players like that. They got Smith last year. There's your number one. You're happy with that. To get a guy like Drake London to pair with him, I think would be very nice, especially if Hurts is the future as they're saying he is, and this quarterback class is not very strong. This is a nice pairing. Someone who's very sure-handed. If it is like a one-read type of offense that they're going to be going with Hurts, London can absolutely be that one read on schemes. You don't have to worry about him through contact. He can create separation. Didn't measure in as high as people thought. I think this might drop him in real life. But with the receivers off the board already, I would not be surprised if the Eagles do take a slight reach and go, hey, we're going to go take London. We're going to fix his wide receiver room quick, fast, and in a hurry. And I mean, the Rager thing is they're not even using him, in my opinion, correctly. There's better ways of utilizing him. But that for them has not worked out. All right, their second pick here. Cornerback two's a need. Slay's getting older as well. You're only going to have a couple more years with him, if that. Get Booth. Booth is young, energetic, and he just loves to stick with these receivers. Like he'll play bump and run coverage like all day long. He is just energetic. I remember watching his tape at Clemson. He will get in their face, whether it be the ball thrown his way or not. He'll be a fan and coach favorite from day one. It fits in need. He's a good player, solid all around. All right, Los Angeles Chargers. This has kind of been one of the more predetermined picks for a lot of people. Is Jordan Davis. He's been sliding up the board a little, up and down the board a little bit. He plays on that really strong Georgia defense. He's used to these kind of multiple 3-4 looks. He'll fit with Staley well at nose tackle. I do have some issues in Davis's game. I found some things that are issues. I also do think the stamina thing for a guy that large, he had moments where I was like, he really should be on the field here, and he just wasn't. Now that could be Georgia keeping him out, right? That could be not his fault, or it could be a stamina thing. It's something you'll have to kind of feel out as a team. We'll see. He's a really big dude that has insane athletic tendencies, though. I watched him chase down a running back after he punctured in the backfield, and he should not move that fast. He is a special talent at nose tackle, and nose tackle has become a need now for the Los Angeles Chargers. So I think this is a very good selection by them. I don't think I could find too many issues with this pick. Saints are up next. Tackle class has gone really thin already, right? Cross and Neal is already gone. Those are your kind of tackle ones. Ike McQuan for me is a guard, right? But he's also already gone. Saints should look at replacing Armstead here since they're really not going to have the finances to do it. And they probably won't be able to get a decent option for agency. I'll be very surprised if they can. So, I think picking Trevor Penning here is quite nice. I know some people have Penning as a first round grade, but I'm not as big on the tackle class as some others. I do like Penning though, and I think taking Penning here, even though I do have a technically second round grade on Penning, this is a very nice selection. I think there's not a lot of issues that can be arise here. I think he's got a solid floor. I think this O line is already solid enough. The fact that if you do pick Penning and put him on this line, that they can help him kind of get to the standard faster rather than some other teams. This is a good pick. I think there's not much issues here. We're just gonna be moving on. Eagles are back up. There's a couple spots Eagles could go here, right? Like if the Hurts thing is in the future, you could see quarterback here. If they want to take like an O lineman, they could. Brandon Brooks to retire. I could see it. I'm gonna have them go fix something that's been an issue for them what seems like years now, which is linebacker. They've had very variable linebacker play. It's been up, down, week to week. Some guys had breakout seasons, like Singleton was good for kind of a season, and then he really stepped off this year. Like it's been so up and down. I'm just gonna have them pick Devin Lloyd, and I think they might just do this. They might see Devin Lloyd and think someone similar to Jamin Davis, who went to a competitor of theirs in their division, like 6'3", 235, shows really good instincts in the run, some solid coverage instincts as well that could be developed well. I think they really need to start looking at fixing things that have been issues for a while now. And I think Lloyd helps fix that issue as well with Booth, who they picked earlier. Pittsburgh Steelers. So I did mention that my love for tackles really falls off like soon. Like I didn't like it, and it is true even with Rayman here. I know people have Rayman as like a mid first. I do not. I have found issues in his game. He has basically the league minimum for arm length at tackle, which means he's gonna have to have perfect technique with knowing when to punch or when not, and have that placement ready. And I have already seen at the college level when he does go for that punch, a lot of these smarter guys have taken advantage of those arms with swipes or these cross shots that just attack those arms, and he can't do anything about it. So I do have a lower grade on him. However, with these tackles going off so quickly, the Steelers really are going to be in a rough spot. You could think quarterback, and I think maybe it'd be a reach as well. It'd probably be the same grade as C. But their tackles, I mean, going into going into this year, their tackle situation was not good. It was rough. That O line for Big Ben in his last season was abysmal. So this could work out. Rayman could get the perfect technique. He could learn on this line. Steelers have a really good history of coaching up these guys, but I could see a number of reasons it doesn't work out as well. But I'm gonna hope that they at least draft for need and something that has been a need the last couple of years in getting a tackle here. Oh boy, yeah, this just happened when I was kind of going through like, okay, what's most likely what these teams are gonna do. When we got to 21, I'm like, okay, this is most likely a receiver, right? And then I saw Nakobe Dean, and I said, oh no. You want a slightly smaller, but faster, and maybe even more violent version of Donta Hightower? Well, that's Nakobe Dean. He he doesn't blitz the same way. And when I mean doesn't blitz the same way, I'm not saying he's not good at blitzing. Dean is fantastic at blitzing. I mean, Dean's much more finesse, much more just. He'll also use his speed and bend to get into the backfield, whereas Hightower has to kind of power rush his way and get under the guy's padding or like toss the guy aside, so to speak. But they can both be lined up as a blitzer, and you do have to account for them as a blitzer. They both can be like in this blitzing role and then drop back into coverage, which Bill Belichick loves that. And Dean fits that role perfectly. Dean has this sideline to sideline speed. He plays hard nosed football. He's used to these multiple fronts coming from Georgia. this is about as slam dunk as a pick as you can get for the Patriots. And I said, I know receiver will be what people are probably wanting here. Bill's got money to fix it in free agency as well. I would not put it past Belichick to go get someone like that and then go look at these receivers later on in the draft. This is a deep class of receivers. So getting a player like Nakobe Dean who is so unique, like this is a 1 in 2,000 player. There is not many players at this position that can play like him. This is fantastic for Bill. Like he basically got to get away with Micah Parsons light here, where since Parsons didn't follow him last year, he's gonna get a lighter version of him, and that's scary. Traylon Burks, I think he ran a high 4.4, low 4.5, something like that is what he ran, which is a little slower than what some people want for a bigger guy, but he is large. And I think he's very fun for this McDaniels offense. McDaniels likes to do like all these short passes and guys can gain yards after the catch, and Burks is really good at that. I think Burks is just a very solid fit here. With Ruggs gone, they have to do something at receiver. They can't just have Bryan Edwards. I think Burks is a very solid pairing. Not much to say there. For the Cardinals, this has worked out fantastically. You get a very short, versatile, and talented interior offensive lineman, right? And he's just fallen right into your lap. I mean, you already have Kyler Murray. You want to be getting linemen shorter than usual because Kyler is an unnatural height at quarterback for typicality. Well, Zion could be playing center or guard, whatever you need. That he actually can play both. So if you ever lose Hudson, or if you just want him to slide and take guard, like this helps you financially. This helps you talent wise. This helps Murray's performance by getting a shorter guy as well. This is a slam dunk pick by the Arizona Cardinals, and I fully expect this is what they do if Zion Johnson did happen to be there. Cowboys. Now I can't lie. Jerry in this spot could do the exact same thing that he did when CeeDee Lamb came across his pick, and he should have gone defense. He could do it again and pick someone like Williams. He could do it. I'm going to hope logic and kind of prevails here that this defense needs help, and they take a guy like Devonta Wyatt. Wyatt was a bit of a late riser for me. He was one of the last guys I watched on the interior, but man, he plays so solid. This guy is a grinder. He there's no plays off. He chases after these running backs. He plays physical. He plays eyes on ball. Like he doesn't ever lose where the ball is. This would really help what has been I guess you'd say, quote unquote, squishy interior on the defensive line get much better, much quicker. Wyatt will play that hard-nosed football that you look for. And I think this is a great fix for the Cowboys. Their corner situation has kind of resolved itself. I really like Joseph, who they haven't really gone going as much. Safeties are a bit more of an issue, but my safeties are rated a bit lower so far. So getting a guy to help fix the interior so you don't have to rely on, Parsons or Lawrence making an incredible play. Excellent pick in my book. Well, Buffalo Bills get to have a luxury kind of a pick here. They have most of the team ready to go. They could get cheaper at some spots. Like they could go linebacker, but I think the linebackers of interest, maybe in the first and second round, have kind of already gone. Getting a guy like Jameson Williams is very exciting. He's fallen a little bit, probably because of injury, right? That ACL tear is gonna steep him down a little bit. He might not be able to play immediately, right? You might want to make sure that ACL is healed. However, with Emmanuel Sanders gone, you've got Stephon Diggs. Gabriel Davis is your deep threat. Cole Beasley is still there as a slot. I don't know how much longer he'll stay there. And then you bring in Jameson Williams. That is so exciting for that Bills offense with Josh Allen. I don't know how you pass up on that. Very exciting. I love this pick. I can see the Bills doing it. We're going to move on. Titans. So I'm not big on McDuffie, as maybe some of you were thinking as I was going down the board. I know some people have McDuffie like top 10, which I think is a little ridiculous. McDuffie has very solid play. He's got some quick twitch athleticism that you like to see. It's just not the same as a lot of other corners in this draft. I find so many other corners offer more. Now, with that being said, he's a great fit here for the Titans. Pairing him up with Farley for the future is a lovely fit, right? It helps them get cheaper. You get younger talent that can be developed in this scheme that plays this Belichickian kind of 3-4 role there. This is a really solid selection. If I liked McDuffie more, I think this would be a more solid A pick for me than it actually was. We have another trade. I know it's been a while since we had a trade. I'm having the Bengals trade up here to get pick 27. They're going to give the Buccaneers pick 31, pick 94, and pick 137, which is a comp pick for the Bengals. They're going to be coming up because they're not going to let another one of these talented O-linemen slide past them. Kenyon Green is somehow still here. They're going to take advantage of it. Green is great across the board. Green was one of the first O-linemen I watched, and I immediately looked at him and like, that guy is fantastic. He moves well laterally. He's got very solid hand placement. He can look down a little more than you'd like, but most of the time he can kind of keep his head up, especially after he gets beat. He'll keep his head up. And then he just mauls in the run game. With how much they love to run these like inside zones or powers on first down, getting a guy like Green to pair up beside, either what could be Armstead if they do win that round, or Jonah Williams, this is a win. There's no way you as the Bengals see him drop to 27 and say, yeah, no, we're not letting him go further down. And I think the Bucks want to accumulate more draft capital now that a lot of guys are retiring or leaving their team. This is a win-win for both teams. Now, Packers, you got to get away like bandits here. You're probably not gonna be able to keep Zarius Smith because of how they structured that contract. You're still so many millions of dollars over the cap. You need to get cheaper and talented quick because you want to go at this again. Well, you know who actually plays almost exactly like Za'Darius Smith that I watched? Trayvon Walker from Georgia. Like almost to a T plays like Za'Darius Smith. He can kick inside, he gets physical. Even when they run versus him, he actually hasn't shown to be that bad. He plays first the run against the tackles, it's no comp. He plays run versus these tackles very well. He's very powerful, strong hands, really good athlete, not a problem off the field either. He's fantastic. And I think he'll play very well for this for this Green Bay team. Pair him up with Kenny Clark taking some of the pressure in the middle with Rashawn Gary on the other side. You still have Preston Smith if you can even keep him as well. Getting Trayvon Walker here at pick 28, another slam dunk, another great scheme fit for their 3-4 scheme. This is an A across the board. So here's my first tight end off the board, Trey McBride. I know his kind of hype has tapered off a little bit, but tight end's becoming a new need for the Miami Dolphins. It's not something people have talked about that much. Gesicki's gone. Gesicki was a very unique tight end. He didn't block very well. You had to kind of line him out as a receiver most of this time. So with bringing in, a Shanahan head coach in Mike McDaniels, you're going to need someone who can play the George Kittle role, right? Someone who can get physical in the run game, create separation, very surprisingly good athlete. Well, Trey McBride is exactly that, and it showed at Colorado State. He is a mismatch, and it showed at the Senior Bowl too. Guys have a problem trying to cover him. He is much faster than people think. He sinks in those breaks, which is rare for a tight end. He can outbody a guy. He's great in the run game. He gets physical with these guys, gets his hands underneath their pads. This is exactly the type of guy that you look for as a Shanahan scheme to get going. And I think the Dolphins picking, hey, we want what we think is the best one in this draft class at pick 29. Great pick. I love it all around. Kansas City Chiefs, Jermaine Johnson II. Very solid tape, but man, that what you saw at the Senior Bowl was just elite. So if you really just need to work on his consistency in what you see, and it's not just like he's elite at one thing either. He's really good across the board. I've seen him do very solid technique when it comes to like spin moves. His spin move is killer. Like that is probably one of the most lethal spin moves I've seen out of an edge rusher coming out early. And this like power rush that he does, where he He just bull rushes the guy, and then he can shed either side. He keeps his eyes in the backfield. First the run, incredible as well. There's really no flaw when it comes to his ceiling. You just need to make sure he hits that ceiling and stays there more consistently. And I love the Chiefs taking him here to pair up with Frank Clark and Chris Jones to get that pass rush to be a little more dominant as to what they're used to, maybe a half a decade ago. So Buccaneers have traded back, and now they're looking for how we can make this team cheaper because we have tons of talent that wants to be paid and should be paid. Well, Kaiir Elam, I have a first round grade on Kaiir Elam. I really love Kaiir. And he slipped for a lot of people's boards because he's kind of a unique corner. He's got a unique way in his back pedal that I've noticed. But I actually am okay with it. He's a local guy, playing at Florida. He showed really good heads up technique. His hips are not stiff at all. Buccaneers probably won't be able to keep all three of their very solid corners, right? So bringing Kaiir Elam is just, hey, we're gonna eventually one of these guys are gonna flip. Fantastic. This is an A pick all around. This is planning for the future. I really commend the Buccaneers for probably making this pick, and I see them doing it as well. And for the last pick in the first round, and that's all we're going to be doing today, the Lions basically get a free pick here, right? Rams won the Super Bowl. They got their first from the Goff trade when they traded Stafford to them. Matt Corral's here. Now, Matt Corral for me is, how do I say? He might be the most volatile quarterback I've ever seen. You will see him make a play where like that is insane how he fit, like he'll be off balance, he'll hit a guy like 30 yards downfield, like literally on a nose, like literally only his guy can get it. And then the next play you'll see him drop back, turn his head, look, see that a guy on a hitch is in double coverage and still throw it. It's like the consistency for him is like if we thought Malik Willis had consistency issues, Matt Corral is even worse. But he's got a high ceiling. He has the arm talent and the arm strength that you look for. If you can key into his mental side, this is where this quarterback is really exciting. So with the Lions having Goff, they're in no rush. Like Goff is not great. I think we as a we as fans know that, right? Goff is a pretty bridge quarterback at this point. Well, you're not in a rush to bring out Corral, right? If you get enough talent in this team, you can get a decent amount of wins. And letting Corral let the game slow down for him, let him understand what coverages are being shown, right? Get like reeling those really dumb throws back in, right? He's almost got to be like Jameis Winston in that way, where it's like you don't have to let it rip every single time. Like if you see double coverage on a hip, don't let it rip. So I think this is going to be a very exciting pick for the Lions. They get their quote unquote quarterback for the future. And they get to actually let him sit and reach their ceiling. They're probably in one of the best spots to take a quarterback and let him sit and potentially reach his ceiling. And for the Lions to get that at pick 32, if that does work out, kind of like how the Ravens got Lamar at pick 32, this is fantastic all around. Thank you guys for watching my mock draft. I will hope to have more as we get closer to the end of the draft season. I hope to see you again. Later.